There's a very specific, um, a very comforting lie that we all tell ourselves about bad people.
Oh, yeah.
Whether we're talking about the villain in a Bond movie or, a toxic boss who makes your life a long hell or that nightmare ex who just wrecked your self-esteem,
Right.
we tend to operate on one major assumption.
Right.
We assume they are emotionally blind.
It's the emotional void theory, isn't it? We really want to believe that the reason people do bad things is a hardware error. Something is just missing.
Exactly. A hardware error. We
Mhm.
picture the stereotype, right? The cold, detached psychopath who literally cannot understand what you're feeling.
Mm,
Or the narcissist who is so busy staring at their own reflection in the pond that they don't even notice you're drowning in it. It's a defense mechanism for us, isn't it?
completely. It makes the world feel safer because if the person hurting you is just, blind to your pain, then there is a solution.
Yeah.
There's a fix. You just have to teach them. You have to explain it harder, cry louder, show them the damage. The logic follows that if they could just understand the pain, they would stop. Empathy is the cure.
But looking at this massive stack of research you've brought in today, that assumption might actually be the most dangerous thing in the world.
Uh-huh.
Because we are looking at a personality type that completely flips the script. What if the person destroying you understands your feelings perfectly? What if they understand them better than you do?
That is the terrifying question we are tackling today. We are dismantling a paradox that has really shaken up the field of personality psychology in the last few years. We aren't talking about the blindly destructive sledgehammer of a traditional psychopath.
Right.
We're talking about a scalpel. We're talking about the dark empath.
The dark empath, even the name sounds like a contradiction in terms. It's like dry water or happily married to a mime. It just doesn't compute.
It doesn't.
But looking at this research stack, and specifically the landmark 2021 study by Haim and colleagues, plus this fresh 2025 systematic review on cold hearts and dark minds, this isn't science fiction.
Not at all.
It is statistically significant, and it is walking around in our offices, our friend groups, and our homes.
It's very real. And what we're going to find in this deep dive is that this isn't just about a personality quirk. We have neuroimaging studies here, actual brain scans that show how these individuals are wired differently.
Wow.
We're going to dismantle the mechanics of what the literature calls weaponized empathy.
Weaponized empathy. That is our mission today. We are going to figure out how someone can use the very thing that's supposed to connect us, empathy, to control, manipulate, and essentially deconstruct another human being.
Yeah.
Because usually when we hear empath, we think of that friend who cries when they see a sad commercial.
Right. We think of compassion, of kindness, but we need to shift the conversation from they don't know what they're doing to something much scarier. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're using that knowledge to optimize the damage. It's data-driven social manipulation.
Okay, so let's start at the foundation. Before we can even touch the empath part of this, we need to deal with the dark part.
The dark triad.
Exactly. We often throw around terms like narcissist or psychopath in casual conversation, usually describing someone who cut us off in traffic. But in the clinical literature, these are specific components of the dark triad. For the listener who hasn't opened a psych textbook in a decade, give us the refresher. What are we actually dealing with here?
Think of the dark triad as the Bermuda Triangle of personality traits. These are three distinct yet often overlapping traits, and it's really important to note these are non-pathological.
Right, which is a key point. It means these people aren't necessarily in prison or an asylum. They're not unsuccessful.
Exactly. They are subclinical. They are your neighbors, your CEOs, your dates. They function in society, and often they function very, very well. The 3 points of the triangle are narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy.
Okay, let's mix the cocktail. Start with narcissism. This is the one everyone thinks they know.
Right. And most people get it sort of right, but miss the nuance. Narcissism, based on the systematic reviews we're looking at, is the engine of entitlement. It's characterized by grandiosity and a desperate need for admiration.
The need for admiration.
Yes. But the key here, and this is often missed, is that it's all about ego validation. A narcissist has a very fragile interior. They are deeply insecure. They need you to reflect their greatness back to them just to feel stable.
So they are the person who needs to be the bride at every wedding and the corpse at every funeral.
That's a vivid way to put it, but yes, it's main character energy taken to a pathological extreme. Everything is about them, for them.
Okay, so that's point one. What's next?
Then you have Machiavellianism, named, of course, after Niccolò Machiavelli, the political philosopher who wrote The Prince.
The ends justify the means.
That's the core of it. If narcissism is, look at me, Machiavellianism is, how do I control you? It's a much colder, more calculated trait.
These are the chess players.
The emotional chess players, exactly. They have a deeply cynical view of human nature. They believe people are generally weak, gullible, or selfish, so it's not just acceptable, it's smart to manipulate them for personal gain.
So they don't need the applause like a narcissist.
Not at all. It's not about admiration, it's about utility. A Machiavellian doesn't need you to clap for them. They need you to move where they tell you to move, without you even realizing you've been moved. It's strategic and often very patient.
And the third one, psychopathy. This is the heavy hitter, the one that scares people.
It is, but again, we're talking about subclinical psychopathy. This is the callous executor of the trio. It is defined by high impulsivity, thrill-seeking, and a profound lack of remorse or guilt.
No conscience.
Or a very, very quiet one. If the Machiavellian schemes the plan, the psychopath executes it without losing a wink of sleep over the collateral damage. They just don't feel bad about hurting people.
Now, usually these three traits are grouped under something called the D factor. I saw this in Source 4. It seems like a unifying theory.
Right, the dark core. The D factor is a really useful concept. It's essentially the general tendency to maximize your own utility, getting what you want, at the expense of others, accompanied by a set of beliefs that justify that behavior.
So it's the me first and you don't matter gene, basically.
That's a perfect, simple way to put it. It's the common denominator that links all three.
Okay, so here is the paradox. Traditionally, if you scored high on that D factor, if you were a dark triad personality, the scientific assumption was that your empathy tank was empty.
Completely empty.
You were running on fumes, you were emotionally colorblind.
Precisely. The prevailing theory was empathic deficit. A narcissist hurts you because they literally can't see past their own nose. A psychopath hurts you because you are just an object to them like a toaster. They lacked the basic ability to process human emotion.
And this created a very specific profile, right? The dark personality is cold, distant, and socially abrasive. You can kind of spot it.
You think you can, yes, that was the model. But the Hames study and all this new data, it blows that up. They introduced the empathy paradox.
This is where it gets really interesting.
This is the crucial pivot. To understand the dark empath, you have to realize that empathy isn't a single switch in the brain. It's not just on or off.
Right.
It is a dual process system.
Yeah.
We have to distinguish between cognitive empathy and affective empathy. This is the whole key.
This distinction seems to be the thing that unlocks the whole mystery. I think most people use the word empathy to just mean kindness, but that's not what it means neurologically. Break it down for us.
Okay, so cognitive empathy is intellectual. It's the ability to understand another person's perspective or mental state. It's the I know what you're thinking part. It's pure data processing.
Give me an example.
If I see you frowning, looking at your watch, and tapping your foot, my cognitive empathy tells me he is likely impatient or stressed about a deadline. I'm reading the signals and drawing a conclusion about your internal state.
It's like a detective reading clues, or a cold reader in a magic show. Subject is tapping foot, therefore subject is anxious. It's a calculation.
It's a calculate. Exactly. It is information gathering. It's perspective taking. Now, then you have affective empathy.
And this is the one we usually think of.
This is the one we think of. This is visceral. This is I feel what you are feeling. If I see you crying and I suddenly feel a tightness in my own chest or I feel sad with you, that is affective empathy. It's emotional contagion. It's an automatic, often involuntary, shared emotional response.
So one is I know it, and the other is I feel it.
Perfectly put. And for a long, long time, we thought dark triad types lacked both. We thought they were just blind and numb.
But the new data shows what you call a bifurcation, a split.
A major split. The dark empath scores high, sometimes exceptionally high on cognitive empathy. They know exactly what you're feeling. They can map your emotional landscape with high-definition precision. They can read you like a book.
But they don't catch the contagion. They don't feel the emotion themselves.
No. They remain detached. They get all the data, but they don't get the emotional baggage. The affective empathy is either low or they can consciously turn it off.
That is, well, it's chilling. It's like having a surgeon who knows exactly where all your nerves are, not so they can avoid them, but so they can. Well, use that map for something else entirely.
One of our sources uses the term affective dissonance. It's a fantastic term. It describes the state of understanding exactly how much something hurts a person, but feeling indifference, or even, in some cases, a sense of satisfaction, rather than shared pain.
Satisfaction. That implies sadism, doesn't it?
It can absolutely overlap with sadistic traits. If causing or observing your suffering validates their power or control, then the cognitive understanding of that suffering actually reinforces their position. It feeds them.
Because think about it. If you want to effectively manipulate someone, you need to know what makes them tick.
Of course.
You need to know their fears, their insecurities, their desires. Cognitive empathy is the ultimate intelligence-gathering tool.
It's the only tool you need, really. But if you actually felt their fear or their pain...
It would stop you. It would be a barrier.
Exactly. Affective empathy is a barrier to manipulation. If I want to trick you, but I start to feel your anxiety about being tricked, I'll likely stop. The dark empath has the scanner, but they've disabled the safety mechanism.
They can see the raw nerve, but they don't wince when they touch it.
They don't wince at all. In fact, they might take notes on how you react.
Okay, I want to talk about how common this is, because I think we all hope this is a rare 1 in a million anomaly, like a serial killer profile.
Yeah.
But the Hames study suggests otherwise, doesn't it?
It really does. This study was a game changer. They used a statistical method called latent profile analysis. So instead of just looking at population averages, they looked at how traits cluster together inside individuals.
So different personality types.
4 distinct groups, yes. You have your typicals, which is most of us, average empathy, average dark traits, somewhere in the middle. You have your empaths, high on empathy, low on dark traits, your classic good guys.
Then the classic bad guys.
The traditional dark triad group, yes. High dark traits, low empathy across the board. The emotionally blind type we talked about.
And the fourth group.
The dark empaths. High dark traits, but also high cognitive empathy. And here's the kicker. They made up roughly 13% of the population sample.
13%.
Yeah.
1-3. That's more than 1 in 10 people.
It is.
That means if you're in a crowded meeting with 10 people, statistically, one person there could be operating this way. If you're at a dinner party, there's one at the table.
It's a significant minority. And what's even more disturbing, or perhaps fascinating, depending on your perspective, is their social profile.
What do you mean?
The study found that dark empaths are actually more extroverted and more agreeable than the traditional dark triad group.
Wait, hold on. Agreeable. How can a person high in narcissism and psychopathy be agreeable? Isn't the whole point that they are difficult and abrasive?
You'd think so. On the surface, yes. But this is the social camouflage. A traditional narcissist is often disagreeable. They cause conflict, they make scenes, they demand the best table. A traditional psychopath might be impulsive and antisocial. But the dark empath?
They're different.
They score higher on psychological well-being. They have lower anxiety. They are socially integrated. They're not the outcasts.
So they don't look like monsters. They look like the nice guy in accounting. Or the supportive friend who always knows the right thing to say.
They look like the most understanding friend you've ever had because, in a way, they are understanding you. They're just not feeling for you. And this social camouflage is precisely why they are so dangerous.
You see the traditional narcissist coming a mile away.
You do. They are the ones shouting at the waiter. The dark empath is the one calmly apologizing to the waiter on their behalf, tipping them extra, and then using that very interaction to show you how benevolent and empathetic they are.
Which creates a false sense of safety. You let your guard down.
It does more than that. It creates what one source calls empathic addiction. We'll get into that later. But essentially, because they seem so safe and so profoundly understanding, you lower your defenses completely. You don't just let them in, you invite them in.
It sounds like the difference between a burglar who kicks in your door and one who convinces you to give them the key, a spare key, and the alarm code.
That's the perfect analogy. And because you gave them the key, when things start going missing, you never suspect them. You think, it can't be him. He's so nice. He gets me.
I want to get into the hardware because when we talk about personality, it can feel abstract, like, oh, it's just how they were raised. But we have this fascinating study by Misnikov et al. From 2024 involving voxel-based morphometry.
VBM, yeah.
Now, I know that sounds like something from Star Trek, but my understanding is this is about measuring brain density. It's physical.
It's physical. Voxel-based morphometry, or VBM, is just a fancy way of measuring the volume of gray matter in the brain. Gray matter is where the processing happens. It's the neurons, the cell bodies. Think of it as the computer chips, while white matter is the cables connecting them.
So they scan people with these dark traits. What is happening physically inside their skulls? Is there a hole where the conscience should be?
Not a hole, no, but a deficit. a measurable physical difference. They found that high dark triad traits correlate with decreased gray matter volumes in very specific structures of the social brain.
Okay, which ones?
Specifically the medial prefrontal cortex, or MPFC, and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the DLPFC. These are huge players in social cognition.
Okay, let's decode that. The MPFC, what's its job? What does it do for us?
The medial prefrontal cortex is largely responsible for something called theory of mind. This is the hardware that allows us to simulate the minds of others, to understand their intentions, beliefs, and feelings. It's also deeply connected to affective empathy.
The feeling with you part.
Exactly. So a deficit here, literally less gray matter, fewer processors, physically supports the idea that they have a harder time automatically generating that shared emotional state. The hardware for feeling with you is literally underpowered.
So when I see someone get hurt, my MPFC lights up and I wince almost automatically. Theirs is, what, dim?
It's dim, it doesn't fire with the same intensity, the signal is weaker, and then you have the DLPFC, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. This is the CEO of the brain.
The executive suite.
It is. It handles executive function, planning, working memory, but critically, it handles emotional regulation and something called cognitive reappraisal.
Cognitive reappraisal.
It's the ability to look at an emotional situation and reframe it to change your emotional response. So, your flight is canceled, and instead of getting angry, you think, well, at least I can read my book for another hour. That's your DLPFC at work.
Okay, but here's where I get confused. If they have less gray matter there, wouldn't that mean they're worse at regulating emotions? Wouldn't that make them more impulsive, like the traditional psychopath who punches a wall when they lose a game?
That's the logical conclusion, isn't it? It seems like a contradiction. If the CEO is weak, the company should be in chaos. But clinical profiling shows dark empaths are highly controlled. They are cooler than cool.
So how does that work?
To explain this, we have to look at another area mentioned in our sources, the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex, the VLPFC.
The VLPFC, okay, what's the twist here?
While the empathic and some regulatory centers might be smaller, research into successful psychopathy, which overlaps heavily with the dark empath profile, shows an increased density or activity in this ventrolateral area.
So one part is smaller, another part is bigger or more active.
Yes. And this area, the VLPFC, provides what researchers call an inhibitory neural circuit.
An inhibitory circuit. That sounds like a superpower. Or a really, really heavy door.
In a way, it is a superpower. It means they have a surplus of inhibitory control. They have a superior braking system in their brain. So even if they feel an impulsive urge, say the urge to lash out in anger or the urge to brag and blow their cover, they can clamp down on it instantly if it serves their strategic goal.
So they have a weaker engine for compassion, but a turbocharged braking system for their own behavior.
That's it. That's the perfect summary. They can suppress the urge to act immediately, which allows them to pause, to calculate. This is what allows them to pass in society so effectively.
It's a difference between a spontaneous crime of passion and a premeditated one.
Exactly. A traditional psychopath might get angry and punch someone in a bar, get arrested, and end up in jail. An unsuccessful psychopath.
Right.
A dark empath gets angry, feels that same impulse, and that supercharged VLPFC clamps down on it. They smile, they buy the person a drink, they learn their secrets, and they systematically destroy that person's reputation 6 months later in a way that can't be traced back to them. That requires massive inhibitory control.
That is terrifyingly disciplined. It changes them from a thug into a sniper.
It does. And there was one more piece of the brain puzzle. The reward system, the basal forebrain.
Yes, the VBM study found structural changes in the nucleus accumbens. That's the dopamine center, right? The pleasure center.
Correct. It processes reward. The structural differences here suggest that their social decision-making is wired differently. What they find rewarding is different from what most people find rewarding.
Wired how? What triggers the dopamine for them?
For most of us, social connection itself is the reward. We bond, we feel good, dopamine release. If I have a deep, trusting conversation with you, I walk away feeling a buzz.
A warmth.
A warmth, exactly. For the dark empath, the wiring suggests they may derive reward. That dopamine hit from different stimuli, specifically from manipulation, from dominance, or from the successful execution of a strategy against someone else.
So they don't get high on connection, they get high on control.
Yeah.
So when they are listening to you pour your heart out, the pleasure that you're feeling isn't, I'm connecting with this person. It's, I am acquiring data that makes me powerful.
Precisely. It's the thrill of the hunt, not the warmth of the hearth. And that brings us directly to the methodology of how they use that data, the actual mechanics of this strike.
The dimension reduction strike. I love this term. It sounds like a military tactic. And reading the breakdown in Source 5, it basically is.
It is a military strategy applied to interpersonal relationships. The concept is all about reducing a complex target, a human being with many dimensions. You're a professional, a parent, a romantic partner, an intellectual, you have social circles.
You're a whole person.
You're a whole, complex person. The goal is to reduce you down to a single, manageable vulnerability.
So instead of fighting the whole army, you find the one weak structural beam in their fortress and you blow it up.
Correct. But to find that beam, you need intel, you need a map. This is phase 1 data collection.
Our sources call this the seduction phase, or the Tom Ripley effect.
Tom Ripley from The Talented Mr. Ripley is the perfect fictional example. In the beginning, the dark empath doesn't shine the spotlight on themselves like a narcissist does. A narcissist says, "Let me tell you about my yacht."
Right.
A dark empath shines the spotlight on you. They become a mirror. They reflect back to you the person you want to be.
But isn't that what we all do when we're dating? Or making a new friend? We try to be interested, we ask questions, we find common ground.
We do, but this is different. It's deeper. It's investigative. They ask detailed, probing questions that are designed to access your vulnerability, but they're wrapped in the language of deep care. Tell me about your relationship with your father. What are you most afraid of failing at? When was the last time you felt truly, deeply alone?
And because they have that high cognitive empathy, they know exactly how to ask these questions. So they sound supportive, not intrusive. They don't sound like a cop. They sound like the most compassionate therapist you've ever met.
Yes. They create that empathic addiction. You feel exquisitely understood. You think, finally, someone gets me. Someone sees the real me. And in that rush of relief, you hand over the keys to the castle.
You tell them everything.
You tell them about your imposter syndrome at work. You tell them about the time you were humiliated in high school. You tell them your secret resentment toward your sibling. You give them the emotional ammunition.
You think you're building intimacy. They're building a dossier on you.
Exactly. They are cataloging your triggers, your weak points, your core wounds. This leads directly to phase 2. Weaponized understanding, or what one source calls emotional puppet mastery.
This is where the switch happens, where the friendly mirror turns into something else.
It's where the data gets activated. Because they know your emotional buttons, not just guessing them, but knowing them from the information you provided, they can push them with surgical precision. Our sources describe this as using a specific past trauma during a totally unrelated argument to completely derail the victim.
Can you give us an example? How does this look in real life? Because I feel like we've all had bad arguments, but this feels different.
Okay, let's create a scenario. Imagine a couple. One partner, let's call him Mark, is a dark empath. The other, Sarah, has opened up to him in a moment of deep vulnerability about how her mother was hypercritical and never, ever let her finish a sentence. It's a deep wound for her, this feeling of being silenced.
Okay, so Mark has that data. He knows silence mother abuse is a critical equation for Sarah. He's filed that away.
He's filed it away.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few months, they are arguing about something completely mundane, let's say, whose turn it is to do the dishes. Sarah is making a valid point. She's objectively right. Mark hasn't done them in a week.
Right.
Mark wants to win the argument, but he doesn't want to address the actual subject of the dishes. Logic is a losing battle for him here. He can't win on the facts.
So he needs to change the battlefield. He needs to shift the terms of engagement.
He waits for her to take a breath, looks at her not with anger, but with a look of manufactured pity, using that cognitive empathy to fake deep concern. And he says, very softly, "You know, when you get so worked up like this, you sound exactly like your mother when she wouldn't let anyone speak."
Oh, that is vicious. That's an atomic bomb.
It's a perfect dimension reduction strike. He has taken the complex present-day reality of Sarah is justifiably annoyed about dishes and reduced her entire identity in that moment to Sarah is becoming her abusive mother.
And instantly, the argument about the dishes is over. It evaporates.
It's over. Sarah is now defending her fundamental identity. She's traumatized, she's spiraling, she's probably crying, asking, am I really like her? Do I do that? Mark has won. He didn't use logic. He used a guided missile targeting her deepest, most private insecurity. And he did it while appearing calm and concerned.
And that leads to phase 3, the strike, the ultimate destabilization. Because usually, we think abusers strike when we are down. But the sources suggest dark empaths often strike when we are up.
This is a key differentiator, and it's so counterintuitive. A classic narcissist hates your success because it takes attention away from them. A dark empath hates your success because it makes you independent. If you are successful, if you are confident, you are harder to control.
So they have to knock you down a peg, They have to let the air out of the tires to keep you in the garage.
Let's use another example from the clinical profiles. Say a partner achieves a massive professional success. They get a huge promotion. They come home ecstatic, high on life. They are a multidimensional, successful, powerful person in that moment.
Like a threat.
A huge threat. So the dark empath uses their knowledge of the partner's imposter syndrome, which of course they gathered during phase 1 to reframe the entire success.
So they don't say good job or I'm so proud of you.
Oh, they do, but they add a twist. They'll say, I'm so, so proud of you, especially knowing how worried you were that you were just tricking everyone. It's absolutely amazing you pulled it off before they realized you were underqualified. I'm just so relieved for you that you got lucky this time.
Wow. Relieve you got lucky. Every word in that sentence is poison.
Every word is precision-engineered poison. It reframes competence as luck. It reframes achievement as a successful deception. It reduces the partner from successful professional back down to their core insecurity. Insecure fraud.
That is the dimension reduction strike.
That is it. And the partner is left feeling small, confused, maybe even grateful for the support, and more dependent than ever on the dark empath for validation.
It's gaslighting, but it's high-definition gaslighting.
Yeah.
It uses the truth of your own feelings to tell a lie about your reality.
It's gaslighting with a blueprint. It's so devastatingly effective because it uses your own internal voice against you. They're just agreeing with your worst, most secret fears about yourself.
Now, this doesn't just happen in romantic relationships. One of our sources, the EBW Global Report, talks extensively about dark empathic leadership, the corporate chameleon.
Yes. And this is scary because in the corporate world, these traits are often rewarded, at least initially. High resilience, strategic insight, charisma, the ability to read a room. Worse.
Dark empaths are often high flyers in sales or management because they can read the room perfectly. They know exactly what the client wants to hear, they know exactly what the boss wants to hear, and they can mirror it back flawlessly.
But there's this concept in the report of toxic fuel, what drives them in a corporate setting.
Toxic fuel is the combination of those unmet psychological needs, that deep-seated need for control and validation mixed with high ambition. It propels them to the top, but it creates a radioactive environment for everyone around them.
How does a dark empath manager operate? Because they aren't the screaming tyrant, right? We've established they are agreeable, they're not going to be throwing phones.
No, the screaming tyrant is inefficient, it's messy, people quit on tyrants, you get HR complaints. A dark empath manager is much smoother. They use what's called selective empathy.
Selective empathy. They are incredibly warm, supportive, and understanding to those who can help them. Managing upwards to the CEO, for instance, or grooming a star performer who makes them look good. But they are cold, manipulative, or dismissive to those who can't help them, or, more importantly, who pose a threat.
And the team ends up completely confused. Half the team thinks this manager is a saint, a true mentor. The other half thinks he's a devil.
Which creates division. It prevents the team from uniting against him. It's classic divide and conquer. But there is a specific tactic mentioned in the sources called intelligent equality. This is fascinating and terrifyingly common in modern flat organizations.
Intelligent equality. It sounds like a good thing. It sounds progressive, like democracy.
It sounds democratic, it's framed as democratic, but it's a form of sabotage. It's a commercial version of the dimension reduction strike.
How does it work?
Okay, let's say you have a rival in the company, another manager, who is the only person who knows how to use a specific, complex piece of legacy software. That unique skill gives them power. It makes them multidimensional and valuable. They are the expert.
Right. They are indispensable. You can't fire them. They have leverage.
The dark empath manager doesn't try to fire them. That would be messy and obvious. Instead, they might launch a new initiative to democratize knowledge or streamline processes for the good of the team.
Under the banner of progress.
Exactly. They force that rival to create documentation and train everyone else on the software. Or, even better, they champion a project to replace it with a simpler system that anyone can use, making the rival's unique skill completely obsolete.
They reduce the rival's dimension. They turn the expert into just another employee.
Precisely. They strip away the unique value, the source of power, under the guise of equality and team efficiency. The rival is now just another cog. Their leverage is gone, and the dark empath looks like a brilliant, progressive leader for sharing the knowledge and modernizing the company. It's brilliant, and it's ruthless.
There was another one, too, boundary pushing, framed as growth. I saw that source, too.
Yes. This is a classic. I'm asking you to work this weekend, not because I don't care about your family, but because I see so much potential in you, and I really want you to prove to senior leadership that you're ready for the next level.
They use your own ambition against you.
They dress exploitation up as mentorship. They make you feel like you should be grateful for the opportunity to burn out.
This leads us to the victims. Because if these people are so good at camouflage, if they're the nice guy, the mentor, the supportive partner, how do we even know we're in danger? Why do people stay? Why don't they run?
They stay because of the confusion factor. This is absolutely critical to understand. Because the empathy felt real in the beginning, and because the dark empath will still show flashes of it when they need to rehook you, victims struggle to reconcile the two versions of the person.
The Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Exactly. They think, he can't be abusive. He was the one who held me all night when I cried about my father. He knows me better than anyone. It creates a massive cognitive dissonance. He hurts me, but he gets me.
And that creates a trauma bond.
It creates a powerful trauma bond. The bond isn't built on love. It's built on the terror of losing that feeling of being seen. It's a fear that no one else will ever understand me like this. It becomes an addiction to the specific brand of validation that only the dark empath provides.
It's like a drug dealer who is also your doctor. They provide the poison and the supposed cure.
A perfect metaphor. And the physical toll. I mean, living on that edge, constantly waiting for the next dimension reduction strike, it isn't free.
I can't imagine.
It's massive. It's chronic activation of the nervous system, the fight or flight response. Victims find themselves constantly scanning for micro-expressions. Is he smiling? Is that a smirk? Is he quiet because he's tired or because he's plotting something? It leads to clinical anxiety, sleep disturbances, and what the sources call an erosion of identity.
What do they mean by that?
You slowly forget who you are outside of their perception of you. You start to believe their dimension-reduced version of you is the real you. You become a character in their play, and you forget your own lines.
So how do we spot them? What are the red flags? If they mask the big stuff so well, what are the leaks? We need to give the listener a radar here.
You have to look for affective dissonance, the glitches in the matrix, the small moments where the cognitive empathy and the affective empathy don't match up.
Okay, give me the list. What should we be watching for?
First, malicious humor. This is a big one. They say something incredibly cruel, but they wrap it in a joke. If you get upset, they say, "What? You're too sensitive," or "I was just teasing."
They invalidate your reaction.
They invalidate it. But if you look closely, the joke was specifically targeted at an insecurity they know you have from their data gathering phase. It's not a random joke. It's a probe. It's a test of your boundaries. They are checking to see how much abuse you will accept if it's packaged with a smile.
Okay, what's next?
Second, the Annie Wilkes syndrome. This is a reference to the Stephen King character in Misery. It's the tendency to claim to know you better than you know yourself and to use that as justification for control.
So, I'm doing this for your own good.
Exactly. Or, I'm only forbidding you from seeing those friends because I know they secretly make you anxious and I'm protecting you from yourself. They use their deep insight into your psychology to justify controlling your behavior.
Framing control as care. That's terrifying.
And third, guilt tripping. But a specific kind, using your empathy against you. If you try to set a boundary or call them out on a behavior, they will immediately perform vulnerability. They flip the script.
How?
They'll say something like, "I can't believe you treat me like this after all I've done for you. You know I have abandonment issues from my childhood. I was just trying to help."
They weaponize their own alleged frailty to make you drop your defenses and feel guilty.
Yes. They know you are an empathetic person, so they simulate pain to trigger your natural, compassionate response. It's a pity play. And it's incredibly effective at shutting down conflict.
So if you are in deep with a dark empath, if you're listening to this and the alarm bells are going off, how do you get out? How do you recover? Because this sounds stickier than a normal bad relationship.
Recovery is unique here. It's different from recovering from a standard abusive relationship with a narcissist who just yelled at you all the time. The healing requires grieving the loss of the being seen feeling.
You have to grieve the good part, which wasn't even real.
So you have to accept that the person who understood you best was actually studying you, that the intimacy was surveillance, that the late-night talks were data collection.
That is a heartbreaking realization.
It is. It shakes your trust in your own perception of reality. But accepting it is the only way out. Therapies like schema therapy and EMDR are often recommended in the sources to process the stuck trauma and the cognitive dissonance. You have to rebuild your identity from the ground up, independent of their dimension-reduced version of you.
You have to remember you are a multidimensional person, not just a collection of insecurities for them to manage.
Exactly. You have to take your user manual back.
This has been heavy, but incredibly necessary. I feel like I'm looking at my social circle with X-ray glasses now.
Let's try to summarize the key takeaways for the listener, because there's a lot of science and a lot of theory here.
Okay, we started with the empathy paradox. The realization that empathy is split into cognitive, the knowing, and affective, the feeling. The dark empath has the first, the scanner, but lacks or suppresses the second, the shared feeling.
We looked at the profiling from the Haim study. They're extroverted, agreeable, and socially integrated. They're the 13% who hide in plain sight. They aren't the villain in the black cape. They're the friendly neighbor, the charming boss.
We looked at the neuroscience, the deficits in the social brain, like the MPFC, combined with that dangerous inhibitory circuit in the VLPFC that gives them the uncanny self-control to play the long game, the super break.
And we broke down the dimension reduction strike, the 3 phases. Data collection, which feels like seduction, weaponized understanding, where they learn to push your buttons, and the strike itself, that reduces your complexity to a single, painful vulnerability. And finally, we looked at how they operate in the workplace with tactics like intelligent equality and the confusion they create in victims through the trauma bond, which is an addiction to being understood by your abuser.
So what is the final thought here? What's the shield? Because I don't want to walk around paranoid thinking everyone who is nice to me is a secret, dark empath. That feels like a terrible way to live.
It is. The final takeaway is a hard truth, but an empowering one. Empathy is not inherently good. It is a neutral tool. Like a hammer, it can build a house or it can break a skull. We have to stop assuming that just because someone gets us, they have our best interests at heart. Competence in understanding people does not equal benevolence.
That's a powerful reframing. Understanding isn't kindness.
And I'll leave you and the listener with this one thought. The dark empath operates by making you feel known. It is their greatest hook. Perhaps the ultimate defense isn't to close yourself off or to become paranoid. It's to realize that true empathy doesn't just understand you, it respects you.
Respect. That's the missing ingredient for them.
It's everything. If you feel understood, but you are consistently made to feel small, if you feel known, but you also feel trapped, you are likely in the crosshairs of a dark empath. Real empathy expands you. It makes you feel bigger, more capable. Dark empathy reduces you. Pay very close attention to the difference.
Real empathy expands you. Dark empathy reduces you. I've been thinking about that for a long time. Thank you all for listening to this deep dive. Stay safe, stay aware, and trust your gut. We'll see you next time.